In the darkest hours of World War II, Adolf Hitler surrounded himself with men whose names would echo through the ruins of Europe. Feared by enemies and revered by their own, these weren't just generals, they were architects of destruction, masters of battlefield strategy, and loyal, sometimes blindly, to the Führer himself. Today, we uncover the stories of 5 of Hitler's most feared commanders, their rise, their triumphs, their loyalty, and their final fall.
Let's begin with a man who became legendary for his cunning and daring in the unforgiving deserts of North Africa. Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. Born on November 15, 1891, in the town of Heidenheim, Rommel rose not through politics, but through courage. In 1941, he took command of the Afrika Korps. In the harsh deserts of Libya and Egypt, Rommel launched fast, daring assaults, confusing the British with sudden strikes.
Pushed the British to El Alamein. Rommel was invincible and smashed the British at Tobruk.
His greatest victory came in June 1942 with the capture of Tobruk, a fortress city that shocked the Allied command. But Rommel was no ordinary Nazi commander. He treated prisoners humanely and often criticized Hitler's cruelty. In 1944, suspected of joining the plot to kill Hitler, Rommel faced a terrible choice: public trial or silent death. On October 14, 1944, he took poison. He died with full military honors, but under a cloud of betrayal.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and leave a comment below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this.
Rommel's genius lay in speed and deception. But there was another man who didn't just use these tactics. He invented an entirely new way to wage war. Heinz Guderian, father of Blitzkrieg. June 17, 1888, Heinz Guderian was more than a soldier. He was a visionary. He saw war not as a slow grind, but as a storm. Tanks, planes, and infantry moving together in one unstoppable force. This was Blitzkrieg. In May 1940, his 2nd Panzer Corps smashed through the Ardennes, bypassing France's defenses and capturing Sedan in just 2 days. The road to Paris lay open. His soldiers trusted him. He was decisive, relentless. But his defiance often angered Hitler and other generals. He clashed openly with the Führer when orders made no sense, and in 1941 he was dismissed. Yet by 1943, Germany's desperate need for his skill brought him back as inspector of armored troops. He survived the war, dying in 1954, remembered as the mind that redefined modern warfare.
But where Guderian challenged orders, the next man obeyed without question, and his loyalty would make him both powerful and hated. Wilhelm Keitel, Hitler's Iron Fist. September 22, 1882, Wilhelm Keitel rose to power not through battlefield brilliance, but through unshakable loyalty. As chief of the High Command, he became Hitler's Iron Fist, signing orders for invasions, deportations, and executions without hesitation. His fellow officers called him La Keitel, the lackey, for his unquestioning obedience. While others strategized at the front, Keitel stayed in Berlin, moving armies on maps and shaping the course of entire campaigns with the stroke of his pen. At the Nuremberg trials, the weight of those decisions caught up to him. He was found guilty of war crimes and on October 16, 1946, was hanged, saluting before the trapdoor opened.
But not all of Hitler's generals followed from behind a desk. Some led with charisma and direct command in the field. Among them was Albert Kesselring, Smiling Albert, known to his troops as Smiling Albert. Behind that calm, cheerful face was one of the Wehrmacht's most skilled and resilient commanders. Born November 30th, 1885, started in the Luftwaffe, Germany's Air Force, but became a master of land defense. In 1943, when Italy surrendered, Kesselring took control. He turned the country into a wall of steel, constructing the Gustav Line, anchored at Monte Cassino. Allied troops struggled for months to break his defenses. 4 major assaults cost thousands of lives. But behind the charm was brutality. Kesselring ordered deadly reprisals on civilians and partisans. After the war, he was sentenced to death, later reduced. He was released in 1952 and died on July 16, 1960, still insisting he did the right thing.
But while Kesselring battled among rubble and retreat, another man lived in luxury, commanding not from the trenches, but from the grand halls of Nazi power. Hermann Göring, the Reichsmarschall. Lavish, arrogant, and once heir to Hitler himself, he was more than a general, he was the Reichsmarschall. And his fall would be as grand as his rise. Born January 12, 1893, Göring was already a World War I fighter ace before he joined Hitler. He built the Luftwaffe into a terrifying force. In the early years, his planes leveled Warsaw, Rotterdam, and London. In 1940, he promised Hitler that Britain would fall in weeks, but the Battle of Britain ended in failure and his prestige crumbled. Arrogant, extravagant, and addicted to power, Göring lived in luxury as Germany burned. Captured in 1945 and sentenced to hang, he escaped the noose with a hidden cyanide capsule. On October 15, 1946, one day before his execution, he took his own life. He died not as a hero, but as a warning.
Which of these generals do you believe was the most feared? Tell us in the comments and join us again for more untold stories from the dark chapters of history.